When you're at a party, sometimes it helps to have some trivia ready to go in your back pocket. From the dog who saved the World Cup to a coffee house for spies, and in the words of Dante from Devil May Cry 3, I can already tell. Looks like this is going to be one hell of a party. I'm Mike with List 25, and here are 2 party facts. Let's say you're in the wilderness and your bike gets a puncture. Not good. Also, you haven't packed your repair kit. Double not good. Luckily, you can firm up that problem tire with what's on the ground, namely grass or leaves. Take off the wheel and pry one side of the tire away from the rim. Then fill the insides as evenly as possible, starting from the outside and stuffing into the tire before putting everything back together. Don't try and ride fast. It'll be super uncomfortable and you could actually put too much stress on your bike. I'm not trying to be insulting here. It's just that their program had the acronym NADA. This stood for the National Aerospace Development Administration. North Korea is a mysterious place that shuts out the West, but it seems even they were aware of how the name sounded overseas. In 2023, NADA became NATA, with the word development replaced by technology. A bit of an improvement. There are parties, and then there are parties. In 1988, Miami set a Guinness World Record for the longest conga line ever with a jaw-dropping 119,986 people dancing in sync. The epic event took place at the Calle Ocho Festival, an annual street party that's basically one huge celebration of Latin culture. The streets were jam-packed with people from all walks of life, shimmying and shaking through Miami's vibrant neighborhoods for blocks. It's a reminder that the wildest parties aren't always about what you do, they're about doing it with as many people as possible. Phrasing. Back in Stone Age times, populations were a fair bit smaller. Research from 2019 carried out by University of Cologne scientists Isabel Schmidt and Andreas Zimmermann revealed that Central Europe may have had approximately 1,500 people living there. That sounds positively skimpy compared to today. Putting this figure into context, the Icon of the Sea cruise ship carries a record-breaking 7,600 passengers on one voyage. One condom holds a shocking amount of water. Can you believe this convenient rubber sheath can hold up to a gallon of water? It makes sense to use a spare condom as a water container in situations where you may need it, but you're going to want the unlubricated kind, otherwise your drink is going to have one funky taste. The so-called dark side of the moon has been examined by astronomers in Hawaii. In 2014, after a couple of years of work, they concluded the precise coloring is more like turquoise. How come? This is due to blue light from our planet bouncing off the moon. The dark side of the moon just sounds way cooler, and that Pink Floyd album just wouldn't be the same, right? The turquoise side of the moon. In 2011, Margaritaville in Las Vegas shook things up by mixing the world's largest margarita, aptly named Lucky Rita. This colossal cocktail had a volume of 32,176 liters, that is 8,500 gallons, and they didn't just pour it into any old container. They prepared a massive tank shaped like a margarita glass, standing 5.2 meters or 16 feet 11 inches tall and 3 meters in diameter, which is 10 feet. And yes, it was rimmed with salt. The ingredients list was just as epic. Over 8,000 liters of Margaritaville Gold Tequila, 9,000 liters of margarita mix, 2,760 liters of triple sec, and almost 13,000 liters of Lemon X margarita mix. It took around 300 hours and 60 people to bring this giant drink to life, all to celebrate the grand opening of the Margaritaville Casino at the Flamingo Hotel. What's your favorite hotel in Vegas? Let me know in the comments below. Dr. Pepper is a heavy hitter on the refreshment scene. The drink dates back to 1885, and thirsty customers of one Wade Morrison. His Old Corner drugstore helped put Waco, Texas on the map. Along with rolls for hot dogs and cones for ice cream, Dr. Pepper wowed crowds at the St. Louis World's Fair in 1904. Once tasted, never forgotten, the beverage took its name from associate Dr. Charles Pepper. Yes, there was an actual Dr. Pepper. I myself knew of a Dr. Pepper in real life. Turns out he was not that great a person, though. He got his doctorate, and he was just Pepper. I'm not going to reveal his first name, but his last name was Pepper, and he got his doctorate while I knew him, and he became Dr. Pepper. Should you need to start a fire and lack the wood to get it going, a tampon can prove surprisingly flammable. It goes to show that the most intimate items are sometimes the most useful when you're in a tough spot. That's the number of planets within our galaxy that can be compared to Earth. It's an estimate, as there are thought to be more. So, what do I mean by an Earth-like planet? Something that's around the same size, for starters. Also a planet that's in a part of space capable of sustaining life, or the habitable zone of a star, as it's called. With approximately 100 billion stars in this corner of the universe, the chances of a planet like ours being there are theoretically pretty strong. Some think that figure is more like 4 billion. If your idea of a good party involves copious amounts of great food, then you will love La Tomatina, the world's largest food fight. Every year, on the last Wednesday of August, the small town of Buñol, Spain, transforms into a chaotic tomato battleground. Thousands of people from around the world gather to throw over 120 tons of overripe tomatoes at each other. The tradition dates back to 1945, when a group of locals started a spontaneous food fight during a parade. Now, it's one of Spain's most famous festivals, attracting massive crowds eager to let loose and join in on the fun. We think of vanilla as a tasty treat, so it's easy to forget that the stuff comes from plants. Specifically, the orchid, which is strange because we think of an orchid as a pretty flower, not a dessert. One example is vanilla panifolia, which produces fruit that needs to be steamed and fermented. Also, you can actually eat orchid petals because they're a generally edible plant. If you've ever been bored on a plane, and let's face it, who hasn't, this tip should keep you occupied and possibly even save your bacon. By counting and memorizing the rows between you and the emergency exit, you can then operate in an emergency situation with limited visibility. I'm talking about smoke and other elements that generally fill an aircraft and mess with backup lighting. Maybe you'll be plunged into darkness altogether. By keeping calm and feeling your way along the rows, you'll reach that exit quickly and efficiently. People in ancient history had some wild ideas about space. For example, they all thought the Earth was flat, right? That was until experts proved those primitive types wrong. Let me stop this story right there. The thing is, it's actually a bunch of galactic garbage. Check out the writings of philosopher Pythagoras, who talked about our world being round in approximately 500 BCE. Later on, the mathematician Eratosthenes worked out the shape of the planet through watching the shadows in ancient Egypt. So leave your preconceptions about historic peoples at the door. And remember, future civilizations will be laughing at us for some of our ideas. When most people think of a dance party, they imagine a few hours of fun. But in 2015, dancers in Wexford, Ireland took things to a whole new level by setting the Guinness World Record for the longest dance party. Clocking in at an incredible 55 hours, 7 minutes of non-stop dancing, the event known as the Marathon of Dance, now aptly named, wasn't just about having a good time, it was held to raise money for mental health awareness. Participants had to stay on their feet with only short breaks allowed. And by the end, they were exhausted but victorious, dancing their way into the record books. I see you're sticking to the healthy snacks there. Oatmeal? That stuff's pretty old. How old is it? Around 30,000 years, at least. What's more, the grains were used for something not dissimilar to porridge. It took a fair while longer for oatmeal to catch on here in the US, however, because it spent a long time as farmyard food for animals. Us humans began enjoying it from the 20th century onwards. What is the bystander effect? Well, it's when you call out for help and passersby automatically ignore you. Why? Because their instinct tells them that they don't need to get involved, figuring that someone a lot braver will step in. Avoid humanity's natural cowardice by singling out one person. Then they've got to help. Theoretically. Excuse me, sir? Sir! When Martians land on Earth, they may well look like talking sticks of asparagus. At the very least, we know that asparagus grows effectively in soil from Mars. The stuff is known in science circles as regolith, Greek for blanket of rock, and it isn't dissimilar to our own soil in terms of the nutrients and such contained within. Plants seem to enjoy the muddy Martian goodness. Question is, would you eat asparagus from a Martian flower bed? You've probably heard of Oktoberfest, right? Even if beer isn't your thing, this event is way more than just a drinking fest. It's a cultural experience. Every year, over 6 million people flock to Munich, Germany for Oktoberfest. Sure, most come for the beer. 7.7 million liters, or about 2,034,124 gallons, are down during the festival's 16 to 18 day run, but there is so much more to it. Oktoberfest is a massive celebration of Bavarian culture, complete with music, dancing, and loads of delicious food, from pretzels to bratwurst. Between the giant beer tents, colorful parades, and all the lederhosen, it's the kind of party that sticks with you, whether you're a beer lover or not. I almost said sláinte, but that's Irish. Prost. Isn't it Prost? There we go. Nailed it. It's not unusual to be loved by anyone. It's also not unusual to be invited to a party by text. Many of these texts have X at the end of the message, meaning, of course, a kiss. But when did that whole business start? Would you believe the late 18th century? Gilbert White wrote a letter in 1763 which concluded with not just one, but 7 X's. Speaking to the Washington Post, Duke University's Stephen Goranson believes White's message is misunderstood, pointing instead to a letter by none other than Winston Churchill for a true example of historic kissy-kissy from a century or so later. Here's what to do if someone has stabbed you and the wound is deep. Your instinct will be to remove the sharp object, but don't. Why? Because while it's unpleasant to say the least, having a knife on your insides, that metal blade could be acting as a stopper for a slashed artery. Yank it out and you're in danger of bleeding to death. So apply pressure around the object instead. This will reduce blood flow. Any environmentalists watching may be shocked to hear that experts want to mess with the atmosphere on the red planet. This Martian global warming proposal would see Mars getting terraformed. The plan is to rock up, create a bunch of greenhouse gases, and turn the planet into a hothouse. Why ramp up the temperature? To ensure a water supply for humans. Water is also essential for climate regulation on Earth, so we want that up on Mars. Okay, party animals, take note. This is how you level up a party. To ring in the new year, Atlantis, the Palm in Dubai, and Moet Chandon created the world's largest champagne glass pyramid at the star-studded Effervescence event. Standing at an incredible 27 feet or 8.23 meters tall and made from 54,740 champagne glasses, the tower took a team 55 hours over 5 days to construct. After the record-breaking event, the pyramid stood tall through New Year's Eve, and the glasses were later recycled into refillable glassware. Put down those onion rings and let me tell you about something way cooler. I think our writer wrote this when he was hungry. Did you know that Super Bowl champs get their very own ring? These gold and jewel-encrusted luxury items are awarded to the higher-ups as well as the coaches and players who triumph at the legendary game. The rings are specifically designed for the winning team. And of course, I personally think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Super Bowl 55 rings are the greatest ones ever, but, I might be a little biased. Speaking to CBS News, ex-official Scott Green revealed that he owned 3. That is a whole lot of bling. Although Tom Brady owns 7, which is more than double that. And I know the Buccaneers, not only did the coaches and the players do it, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers awarded it to the anyone involved on the Bucs. So like writers and training people and like from top to bottom, everyone got a ring. It's cool. They call it an emergency number for a reason. 911, or whatever the number is in your part of the world, can be dialed whether you have credit or not. Provided there's a signal, you will get through to someone. So if you're ever in trouble and you're thinking, damn, I can't call 911 because I didn't pay the bill this month, then, well, you're probably an idiot. The Cold War may have been going on at the time, but that didn't stop Apollo 11 crew members Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin from placing one of Yuri Gagarin's medals on the lunar surface. Gagarin became the first human in space, going into orbit in 1961, 8 years before the famous moon landings. It was in a satchel, and they left it up there. With how things work on the moon, the medal is probably still lying around undisturbed. The Americans also wanted to pay tribute to fellow cosmonaut Vladimir M. Komarov, who died in 1967. He was the first human to lose his life during spaceflight. We don't really have to stop having fun in the winter. And in 2013, the people of Seattle proved it. A total of 5,834 participants gathered at Seattle's Snow Day to break the record for the largest snowball fight ever. Over 160,000 pounds of snow were brought in to turn the Seattle Center into a winter wonderland. And once the snowballs started flying, it was pure frosty chaos. The event, organized to raise funds for charity, lasted for several hours and ended with teams of people pelting each other with snowballs in an epic, giant, fun-filled battle. As things go, I should mention that minor injuries were, however, reported. Did you know the word boy only became popular in the early 15th century? Before then, it was girls all the way. You see, girl meant child, so really anyone could be described as a girl. The evidence is there in the works such as the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer, written a century or so earlier. This may sound a little crazy, but trust me, it makes sense. If you're under threat outdoors, take your driver's license or other ID and throw it on the ground. That way people know where you are if they need to find you. Might not be the best idea to throw away your bank cards, but ultimately this fact could save your life from a predator. The wind blows on Earth thanks to the sun, which heats the surface in a way that generates turbulent conditions. Over on Neptune, however, they don't pick up much energy from the sun. So why do they have such powerful winds? Neptune has what are believed to be the strongest winds in our solar system with a top speed of 1,304 miles an hour. Could heat come from inside the planet instead? Well, that's what experts think, though it will probably be a long time before we can prove it. In 2009, Mexico City threw an epic party that would make even Michael Jackson proud. Just weeks after the King of Pop's passing, 13,597 people gathered at the Monumento a Revolución to perform the iconic Thriller dance. On what would have been his 51st birthday, participants, many dressed as zombies, others as Jackson himself, perfectly nailed the zombie dance from the music video. By playing tribute, the people of Mexico set a Guinness World Record for the largest Thriller dance ever. Or not. Really, you don't have any choice if you're watching a play, show, or movie. A precuneus is the part of the brain that helps someone perceive what's going on around them. Actors reportedly rely on their precuneus to focus their attention on the role they're portraying. It apparently enables them to stay in character whilst also being aware of themselves as a performer. It's also staggering information to learn that some actors have brains. Oh, wow, shots fired. You know where true north is, right? You don't? Well, just go and fetch your compass. You don't have one? Oh. Alright, well, so what do? Easy. Grab a stick, jam it in the ground. Note where the shadow goes. Then, check out the shadow again after 15 minutes. Now, put your left foot where the first shadow was, and your right on the second, and congratulations, you're now headed northward. Which for me is actually that way. Now I'm facing north. Want to see a really cool way to learn about the solar system? In Stockholm, there's a giant outdoor model showing our side of the cosmos up close and personal. Obviously, it isn't full size, but the model is constructed so that 1 meter is equal to 1 million kilometers. Tiny in galactic terms, but no small distance. In total, the model is approximately 600 miles long. You won't need a spaceship, but you'll probably need a taxi or bike. We actually have something like that here in Gainesville, Florida. If you go to 8th and 34th, there's a park right there, and right across the street, it's a model of the universe our solar system that is to scale. So like the sun's at the corner and Pluto's way down. It's a lot smaller scale than this. But yeah, no, we have something like that. Come to Gainesville, come check it out. Like I said, 34th and 8th, you'll see it. And real quick, guys, if you like this video and want to help me out, please give it a like and a comment for the algorithm, because it will help this channel out a lot. Thank you so much. Back to the list. In the town of Marino, Italy, there's a festival that takes party to a whole new level. Every year, on the first Sunday of October, the town celebrates Admiral Marcantonio Colonna's victory over the Ottoman Armada in 1571. The streets are filled with Renaissance costumes, jousting, free food, and the piece de la resistance, wine flowing from the town's main fountain, La Fontana dei Quattro Mori. As dusk falls, the water is drained and sweet white wine is poured for everyone to enjoy. So, if wine's your thing, the glowing yellow arches of McDonald's are sure to make your stomach rumble. I think our writer is absolutely hungry. Though they aren't always yellow. Travel to Arizona, specifically Sedona in the Verde Valley area, and you'll find turquoise is the color that activates those hunger pangs. Why are McDonald's arches a different color here? Because authorities don't want business signs to distract attention too much from the surrounding landscape. These rocky wonders shouldn't take a backseat to a Big Mac, no matter how tasty it may look. How do you know if a tornado is heading in your direction? It isn't as straightforward as you may think. Obviously, you can't miss a tornado, but it can move left and right, swaying around like a drunk leaving a bar. It can even look like it's just sitting there doing nothing. These factors make it difficult to work out if it's spinning towards you or not. If that tornado in the distance isn't really moving, then be warned. There's a decent chance the wild weather mayhem is coming your way. Incredibly, there are places in the solar system with atmospheres suitable for human flight. And by that, I don't mean flying in ships. I'm talking about channeling your inner seagull and flapping your way around. Titan, one of Saturn's moons, has a nitrogen-rich atmosphere. This dense environment means it's possible for someone to attach wings to their arms and get a bird's eye view of the place. Now, since I'm on the subject of wine, Isn't it fascinating how traditional Chinese medicine never fails to surprise? In China, there's a rice wine that promises to restore men's potency, 太师上病治, which translates to 3 penis liquor. This unique brew contains, as the name suggests, the essence of 3 different animal penises, deer, seal, and dog. According to tradition, these ingredients are steeped in the wine to extract their medicinal properties, with the goal of boosting male virility and apparently healing kidneys. So yeah, wine folk, maybe not all wine should be your thing. Turns out it isn't just the players who need to stay in prime condition for tennis. Their balls have to be looked after too. One way of doing this is by storing them in the refrigerator. Cool balls last longer. Who knew? The rubber is better preserved, though research also showed that a ball will bounce higher if placed in an oven. This is due to the heat lightening the air molecules. It's a icky prospect for sure, but you can glue a wound shut using superglue. Not the kind you use to build a model, though. Medical cyanoacrylate adhesive can be purchased as a potential lifesaver. Superglue in general was derived from wartime activity where it was used on wounds to haphazard effect. While the likes of Loctite are great for everyday use, you need the surgical glue to close what's described as a minor cut. Make sure the wound is clean and seek further advice for anything that isn't a straight, shallow knife cut. Yes, our number 15 is the number 15. As in, the number of sunrises and sunsets you'll see on a daily basis on the International Space Station. It's because you're orbiting a few times around the Earth during that period. People down below have to put up with one measly sunrise and sunset. New Zealand's Kareroo pigeon isn't just admired, it's celebrated. Even when it's, well, a little tipsy. Every year, the conservation group Forest and Bird holds a national competition to crown New Zealand's favorite bird. And in 2018, the Kareroo pigeon, known for its clumsy antics, took top prize. These birds love snacking on fermented fruit, which often leaves them literally stumbling out of the trees. Locals affectionately describe them as flaming drunk. But while they might seem like the life of the party, Kareroos are actually vital to New Zealand's ecosystem, playing a crucial role in dispersing seeds for native plants. So despite their boozy behavior, they hold a special place in everyone's hearts, like that lovable, tipsy uncle at Christmas dinner. Although I believe John Oliver got the Puteki Teki to win last year? Year before? What's up, John Oliver? I know you're watching this, clearly. Sorry, I don't know why. We're clearly best friends. What's up, John? You probably know that England won the World Cup in 1966. I mean, who the hell doesn't? But have you heard of pickles? This black and white mixed breed collie dog tracked down the iconic trophy after it was snatched from a London stamp exhibition of all places. The initial ransom plot was foiled by police, who retrieved a detachable part of the trophy. The remainder was later discovered thanks to Pickles, who was scampering around by the car where the remainder of the trophy was stashed. His owner spotted it, and the rest is football history. Or soccer history if you're in America. Did you know the sea can produce square-shaped waves? Also known as cross waves, they're created by intermingling weather systems, which result in a pattern that resembles a grid. These waves may be rare, but they also spell trouble for the unwary. Should you manage to spot this powerful sea grid, then get out of there. You may be caught up in a riptide or similar wet and wild calamity. Brown dwarf stars are known for being not quite a planet and not quite a star. Whatever they are, they're very cool. By which I mean cool enough to touch. There are examples where the temperature on the outside is 200 degrees Celsius. That's well over 20 times cooler than the sun. Not something you'd want to touch for a long time, certainly not without gloves, but touchable nonetheless. Back in 2019, Dutch customs officials raised an eyebrow when a Chinese-owned ship, the Nebula, pulled into Rotterdam carrying a suspicious load, 90,000 bottles of top-shelf Russian vodka. The paperwork claimed it was headed for China, but Dutch intelligence wasn't buying it. They suspected that the shipment's real destination was the private stash of none other than North Korea's Kim Jong-un. Since the UN's sanctions have banned luxury goods from entering North Korea, this vodka haul quickly became a problem. The bottles were tucked behind an aircraft inside the ship's hull, but that didn't stop customs from seizing the stash. While they've kept quiet about how they cracked the case, it's not hard to believe Kim was behind it. After all, he's been known to import billions in luxury goods since taking over in 2011. It's associated with crazy behavior, but did you know our lunar satellite affects people in the run-up to a full moon? A study from 2021 appeared to show that people went to bed later and got less sleep overall when the event was near. This could happen up to 5 days before the full moon. Amazingly, the person's environment didn't seem to have an effect. Whether you were in a remote setting or a well-lit one, the moon still exerted a powerful hold on your sleep pattern. Avalanches have a habit of cramping your style, or to be more precise, burying you alive under a ton of snow. You won't know which way is up, but you will now thanks to this eye-opening fact. Try to form a gap so you can breathe, and then just hock a loogie. Gravity dictates where the spit will fall. And don't follow gravity, instead, dig the other way, and hopefully you'll make it out. There aren't any floating cities above Venus. One day, however, there might be. The Venusian sky is being looked at as a possible place for humans to live, provided we can design and build communities in the air, of course. Pressure in the atmosphere there, located around 31 miles up, is comparable to that on Earth. You don't want to be on the ground on Venus because it's reportedly 900 degrees Fahrenheit. The margarita is one of the most popular cocktails out there, and you might not know this, but it comes with more than one origin story. Margarita Sames, a wealthy socialist from Dallas, Texas, claimed to have invented the drink while on vacation in Acapulco in 1948 with her friends. One of those friends, Tommy Hilton, yes, from those Hiltons, liked the drink so much that he put it on his hotel's drink menus. However, Jose Cuervo was already promoting the margarita in 1945, which makes Margarita's story a little shaky. Still, some people prefer to stick to it, because wealthy people never make up stories, right? Then there's Danny Negretti, who supposedly created the margarita as a wedding gift for his sister-in-law, also named Margarita, as well as Don Carlos Orozco, a Mexican bartender who claimed he made the drink for the daughter of a German ambassador. And here's a fun fact. During Prohibition, there was a similar drink called the Daisy, and margarita just happens to be Spanish for daisy. Coincidence? What do you think? Living in a city that never sleeps means you're never short of places to eat. So, no wonder a study was conducted working out how long it would take to eat at all the restaurants in New York. The legwork was done by wine platform VinePair, who used info from the open table reservation system comprising over 8,000 establishments in the Big Apple. So, how long would it take? 22.7 years. You're gonna need a doggy bag. The smell of fish doesn't always equal fish. Believe it or not, it can indicate an electrical fire. This is down to a handy yet stinky chemical reaction emanating from superheated electrics. So don't check for any rotting tuna, leave the property, or you might wind up as dead as a grilled sardine. Mars would also be your final destination if you signed up for the Mars One project. This has been around since 2012 and is the brainchild of entrepreneur Bas Lansdorp. Much like that Matt Damon movie The Martian, Lansdorp wants people to go to Mars and turn it into a human colony by growing veggies and stuff. It's also a one-way trip. Mars One sounds like a true adventure, and many are up for the challenge. Over 100,000 are currently on the books, though they probably shouldn't get too excited, as missions to Mars were supposed to start happening in 2024. I think you missed the boat, guys. Beer might just be the reason we have, well, everything. According to the Discovery Channel documentary How Beer Saved the World, this humble drink is credited with kickstarting human civilization. The documentary claims that early humans didn't start farming to grow food, they did it to brew beer. And as demand grew, so did our need to innovate. The plow, the wheel, and irrigation, all thanks to our thirst for beer. But it doesn't stop there. Math became essential to help farmers manage their expanding fields. And written language? Yeah, that was developed to keep track of beer production and trade. In fact, the documentary basically argues that every single major milestone in human history was driven by our love for beer. So the next time you raise a glass, you might be toasting the very foundation of civilization. No? Well, that's a shame, because you're gonna get it anyway. Authorities state that nitrogen gas is used to take the oxygen out of the bag. Oxygen plus chips inevitably leads to spoilage. By injecting the gas repeatedly into the packet, you reportedly get a fresher product. It also helps puff up the bag, so if the snack gets dropped, there's a little bit of protection. Just because it's colorful and cute doesn't mean all is well. The humble, flamboyant cuttlefish may appear beautiful, but it also contains venom. And the brighter it looks, the more trouble you're potentially in. These lovely yet lethal creatures rely on what's called aposematism. In the natural world, Technicolor skin tones can serve as a warning, and you should really keep your distance. NASA did an internet test on the moon? They sure did, back in 2013. The LLCD, or Lunar Laser Communication Demonstration, zapped data all the way from the lunar surface to the planet Earth. Typically, radio waves would have been used. Reports state the project's download speed was 622 megabits per second. That's actually pretty good, as the recommended speed on Earth is 100 megabits per second. Uploading was also strong with a speed of 19.44. That's around 10 megabits faster than the recommended minimum. Okay, I promise, this is my last beer-related fact, but I think it's safe to say that while Adam and Eve may have discovered the first apple, their descendants probably used the next ones to make cider. In 2018, archaeologists uncovered a 13,000-year-old brewery in a Stone Age cave in Israel. Whoever ran that operation was likely the life of the party, or at least of the ritual feasts held by the Natufian people. The beer brewed here was probably consumed during these feasts, supporting the idea that beer might have been one of the reasons early humans started planting cereal crops. So maybe there's some truth to that Discovery Channel documentary after all. In fact, the word sarcasm is partly derived from the Greek sarkazin. The English translation of this from hundreds of years ago was to tear flesh, and the description has been compared to an animal attack. Something to think about the next time someone makes a savage remark to you at a party. While many of us enjoy a bowl or two of potato chips, or 3, we know they don't do our insides any favors. However, you'll be glad you brought some along in a survival situation. See, you can use the calorie-packed snacks to start a fire and keep yourself alive. I should point out you'll also need a lighter to burn them with. You can't just rub 2 potato chips together like firewood, that'd be silly. How much room is there aboard the International Space Station, or the ISS? It always seems pretty cramped to me. But as it turns out, I'm wronger than a spicy cure in a long-haul spaceflight. The inside of ISS is reportedly similar to a 5-bedroom property that can be shared between a group of 6 who have kitchen and bathroom facilities alongside their labs and lounges. Actually, it's starting to sound a lot less like a space station, more like an Airbnb, right? Space B&B. In 2014, Bestival, a UK music festival, took partying to a whole new level by unveiling the world's largest disco ball. The glittering giant measured an incredible 33 feet or 10 meters in diameter, making it bigger than most buses. Suspended high above the festival grounds, the ball reflected light across the crowd, turning the entire event into a shimmering dance floor. It was so massive that a crane had to hoist it into place, and it broke the Guinness World Record for the largest disco ball ever made. Wonder what the one was before that. Humankind has eaten some weird things over the centuries, but sloths? I mean, meat is meat, I guess. However, we certainly don't think of these creatures as food. Mind you, this was thousands of years ago when the not-so-humble sloth was jumbo-sized. 27,000-year-old fossils from South America revealed that the giant sloth wound up on the prehistoric dinner menu before jewelry was fashioned from its bones. Being struck by lightning is thankfully a rare occurrence. Yet there's one way to know if the gods are about to unexpectedly smite you from above. Your hair will rise in response to lightning clouds, which electrically charge the ends of your locks and draw them upwards. I apologize to any bald viewers, you're just gonna have to look after yourselves, I guess. How much does it cost to make a Hollywood space movie? 2013's Gravity starred George Clooney and Sandra Bullock as 2 gorgeous astronauts in trouble. This came with a hefty price tag, $100 million. Believe it or not, that's relatively cheap in blockbuster terms. However, it's super expensive compared to an actual space program. Yes, Gravity cost around $25 million more than Mangalyaan, India's Mars orbiter. Let's talk party snacks, because apparently some people are getting pretty creative with where they enjoy them. According to a survey, 17% of Americans admit to eating party snacks in the bathroom. Yep, either on the toilet or in the shower. Really? And if that's not enough to raise an eyebrow, nearly 50% of people are guilty of double dipping at parties. You know, when you bite and dip again. So next time you're at a party, you might want to think twice before reaching for the communal dip. Secret agents need their coffee, just like everyone else. That's why the CIA has its very own branch of Starbucks at their Langley headquarters. 9 people work at this unique location, which is reportedly very busy. Are customers' names written on the cups? Absolutely not. The only beans that get spilled here are coffee beans. This place puts the no in cappuccino. Oh, God. I apologize for all of that. Oh, no. Cappuccino. While it's bad news if you run into a bear out in the woods, you can survive the encounter provided you stick to some fast rules. Or rather, slow ones. When seeing a brown or grizzly bear, don't run. The official advice is to lie face down, pack facing up with your hands clasped behind your neck and your legs spread apart. Of course, you'll feel more vulnerable with spread legs, but it apparently means you're less easy to flip over like a human pancake should the bear want to do that. Please note, this does not apply to black bears or polar bears. A 1.4 megaton hydrogen bomb was exploded by the Americans over the Pacific in 1962. At approximately 248 miles high, the bomb was tested way up in space. You see, the line between Earth and space is only 62 miles above sea level. This space bomb was super powerful, 100 times stronger than the Hiroshima bomb. According to reports, the resulting electromagnetic pulse put out street lighting in Hawaii and affected a British satellite, among other disruptions. The explosion was dubbed Starfish Prime, part of Operation Fishbowl. When you think of Christmas dinner, KFC probably isn't the first thing that comes to mind, unless you're in Japan. Every year, millions of Japanese families head to their local KFC for a bucket of fried chicken, and it's become a full-blown tradition since the 70s. It all started with a clever marketing campaign called Kentucky for Christmas, and now families place their orders weeks in advance to make sure they don't miss out. Our next story isn't some high-concept TV show, it's a real thing. In 2019, it was reported that China had actually cloned a crime-busting Kunming wolf dog named Huahuangma. So now there's a puppy named Kung Shun following in its doggy footsteps. This move is designed to potentially reduce the time it takes to train police dogs. Performing CPR, or cardiopulmonary resuscitation, involves chest compressions. You're supposed to be doing these at a rate of 100 to 120 beats per minute. And if that's tough, then, well, get the Bee Gees to help you. Yeah, you heard me right. Their hit, Stayin' Alive, is ironically one of the best songs to think about when doing compressions. Though, I wouldn't advise solely on disco music to get the job done. Consult with a medical professional whenever possible. Russia went into space first. We know that. They were then followed by their rivals, the USA. We know that too. Who came third? You'd be forgiven for not knowing that, unless of course you're Canadian, in which case you're probably screaming at the screen right now. They launched their Alouette 1 satellite in 1962. In Spain, there's a juicy New Year's Eve tradition that involves eating 12 grapes, one for every strike of the clock at 12 a.m. Each grape symbolizes good fortune for each month of the following year, but you have to eat them quickly. Really quickly. Families and friends gather round, grapes in hand, and everyone tries to finish all 12 before the clock stops chiming. It's a lighthearted and slightly chaotic way to ring in the new year. What a great way to ring in the new year. Ad breaks seem like they go on forever, but could you sit through a 14-hour epic? This production for Old Spice broke the world record in 2018 and was shown in Brazil. Terry Crews featured in the posterior numbing promo, which, safe to say, was probably a little repetitive. There's also a 3-minute preview in case it doesn't take you over a day to grasp the concept of grooming products. Turns out you don't need a face mask if the air around you is polluted. Simply take off your bra, cut the undergarment in half, and put the cup around your nose and mouth. Hey, it even comes with a handy strap to hold everything in place. And if you're one of those people who doesn't wear bras, then maybe you should consider it. Or at least, carry one around in your pocket. Actually, don't. That's weird. It's a common misconception that the Great Wall of China is so enormous you can easily see it from space. The famous wall is over 13,000 miles long, but at only 46 feet in height at its highest point, we're not talking anywhere near large enough. One thing you can see is Chinese air pollution. The grim findings of a study into concentrations of pollution were revealed in 2012. In the mid-60s, author Ken Kesey, yes, the guy who wrote One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, decided to throw some of the most chaotic and mind-bending parties ever. The infamous acid tests. These weren't your typical gatherings. LSD was handed out freely, and what followed was a swirling mix of music, art, and people completely losing themselves in the experience. Without any real rules, these parties quickly dissolved the usual social boundaries. People stopped feeling like individuals and became part of a collective vibe. Psychologists call this a dissolution of ego boundaries, where everyone feels like they're part of something bigger than themselves. The energy at these events was off the charts, and it wasn't long before they became iconic moments in the counterculture scene, paving the way for even bigger gatherings like Woodstock. While it appears that your dog pees and poops mindlessly, the truth is actually surprisingly technical. A scientific study uncovered the eye-opening link between canines and the Earth's magnetic field. This field impacts on their doggy-do decision-making process, with the animal positioning its body along a north-south axis. Essentially, a dog will go to the toilet between the north and south poles. Isn't that right? Give me kisses. Stop looking at the tennis ball. Give me kisses. Stop it. Trapped on a mountain? Oh no. Are you thirsty? Pfft, no problem. After all, you're surrounded by water in the form of snow, right? The trouble is, it's actually easy to make a potentially fatal mistake. This isn't some giant slushy that you can munch your way through. Your insides melt the snow, but doing so consumes precious energy. It can leave you cold and, strangely, dehydrated. Better to melt the snow first, plus check it's not contaminated. This German-made rocket became the first man-made object to travel into space in 1942. It soared approximately 118 miles high, passing the Kármán line. This boundary between Earth and space, named after the physicist Theodor von Kármán, lies 62 miles up. You may not know that the Germans were heavily involved in space exploration, or that the Americans and Russians used the V2 teams to help create their own space rockets. If the time between birthdays feels like it takes forever, you're not wrong. There are 31,536,000 seconds in a year, which means you're counting over 30 million seconds from one birthday to the next. And since I'm on the subject, while you're waiting for your next birthday celebration, you'll also have about 1,500 dreams. Though you probably won't remember most of them. But hey, it passes the time. Imagine going through intensive training as an astronaut, only to find out you're allergic to moon dust. This was the sad reality for spaceman Harrison Schmitt. He learned about this reaction the hard way, taking part in the Apollo 17 mission from 1972. Schmitt suffered from irritated eyes and throat, plus his sinuses were congested. He wasn't alone. Research was conducted into the impact of moon dust on human lungs. The results don't appear to be conclusive, meaning astronauts must take even greater care when journeying among the stars. As if they don't already. While it's received wisdom from movies and such to suck the venom from a snakebite and spit it out, you don't really want to be doing this. In fact, you might be doing more harm than good slapping your kisser all over the wound. The sucking action puts pressure on your blood vessels, and if you damage these, chances are that infection will set in even more. Saturn's rings are impressive. However, in space terms, they're really thin. The chunkier of the rings measures around several hundred meters deep. Compare that to the width of the rings at approximately 87,000 miles, and you really see the difference. You wouldn't want to get too close to one, of course, due to the fact that they're made of whirling pieces of rock and ice. If today's your birthday, you're definitely not celebrating alone. Around 21.9 million people worldwide are likely partying along right with you. That is a lot of cake, candles, and happy birthday songs happening at the same time. And if you're curious, there are some cool websites where you can dive even deeper. You can find out how many people were born on the exact same day, hour, and even nearly the same minute as you. Interestingly, July through September seems to be the most popular time for birthdays, with September 9th being the day when the most people are born globally. So, have you ever found a birthday twin? And by the way, when's your birthday? Let me know in the comments below. I know I share mine with Queen Victoria, John C. Reilly, Tracy McGrady. There's a couple people off the top of my head as well. Oh, Bob Dylan. May 24th birthdays. What's up, guys? If you celebrated May 24th birthday, let me know. Back in 2018, the extraordinarily named Beat Wampfler of Switzerland decided to see what effect music had on the classic dairy product. Can you believe that Beat Wampfler isn't actually a musician, but a veterinarian / cheesemaker? He introduced his product to the likes of Led Zeppelin, dubbing it Sonic Cheese. Assisted by the Bern University of Arts, it was concluded that cheese develops a stronger taste in these conditions, especially if Mozart is playing. A natural reaction to an explosion is to open your mouth in shock, which is good in terms of safety. Only try to do it before the blast. This reportedly protects you against powerful shockwaves by equalizing dangerous pressure levels. Otherwise, those shockwaves might damage you internally. You may know that Uranus comes before Neptune in the sequence of planets in our solar system. But was that always the case? Some experts believe it was originally Neptune that was closer to the Sun. In other words, the two planets did a cosmic switcheroo. Because Uranus is on a tilt, it's thought the switch could be in some way responsible for this. Since I've just touched on birthdays and we're getting closer to Halloween, did you know that if you were born on Halloween, you've basically beaten the odds? Studies from the Yale School of Public Health and a separate study in Taiwan found that births take a dramatic 11.3% dip on Halloween. And this wasn't just due to scheduled C-sections or induced labors. Natural births took a nosedive too. In fact, when researchers studied 1.8 million birth records over 20 years, they found that people just don't seem to be having babies on spooky October 31st. While science hasn't figured out exactly why this happens, researchers suspect it might have something to do with the overall vibe of Halloween influencing people's subconscious. I've heard of learning from your mistakes, but this takes it to a whole new level. This traveling collection of supposedly underwhelming items features Oreos flavored with limeade, an exercise device called the hula chair, and last but not least, Colgate lasagna. The viral foodstuff, an Italian ready meal released by a toothpaste company, is so incredible that people believe it was made up. The rugged landscape can be your friend as well as your enemy. Should you lose your bearings, then a downhill direction is recommended. How come? Well, because you're more likely to return to civilization due to humanity's reliance on a water source. And which direction does water flow in? Well, hopefully you guessed it, downhill. What happens when you throw a boomerang in the International Space Station? Firstly, you should duck. Secondly, the boomerang would probably just float there. In fact, it does what a boomerang should do, as engineer Takao Doi discovered when using the legendary Australian throwing stick in ISS Gravity. While astronauts float around aboard the ISS, the gravity isn't as light as you think. My question is, why does he carry a boomerang around with him? I miss mine. I had one. I don't know where it went. I threw it and it didn't come back. No, I seriously don't know where it went. So if anyone has a boomerang they're not using, send it my way. I'll take it. Always wanted a boomerang, and I bought one and I lost it. You know how we all just clink our glasses before taking a sip? Well, as it turns out, this simple gesture has some pretty interesting history behind it. Some people used to believe clinking was meant to scare away evil spirits, because apparently demons have parties. Others think it started as a way to prevent poisoning. By sloshing a little wine into your friend's glass, you'd both be drinking the same thing. If one of you got poisoned, well, so did the other. Nice, right? As fun as those theories sound, the real reason is a bit more down to earth. Back in the day, a toast was all about engaging your senses, sight, smell, taste, and touch. But something was missing. Sound. When wine glasses became more elegant, people started realizing that tapping them together made a satisfying musical sound. And voila, the clink was born. Nothing gets the party going like music. But when was the very first song heard by human ears? They don't come much older than Hurrian hymn number 6 from the 14th century. The Hurrian people lived in an area called the ancient Near East, which is compared to today's Middle East. As you can imagine, the lyrics weren't scrawled on a piece of paper, but instead on a clay tablet. These were discovered in what became Syria. You can save yourself from drowning by simply removing your pants. Oh, you want me to explain more? Okay. Well, taking off your pants while underwater isn't exactly simple, but once they're off, you can turn them into a flotation device. Yeah, we're learning all kinds of bizarre but brilliant facts today. As demonstrated by a Marine on TikTok, you can tie the legs together, smash the button-up pants against the water repeatedly to fill them with air, and then put them around your neck to keep you afloat. This next story is not for the squeamish. Spacewalks look cool, and it's an experience you'll remember for the rest of your life. Mainly because you're doing something only a small number of people get to do. And partly because you're having your fingernails torn out. I'm sorry, come again? It seems the gloves astronauts wear are a little on the uncomfortable side. Not every astronaut has these troubles, but a lot of them do. Can you believe that some people choose to actually remove their fingernails so they can enjoy a hassle-free spacewalk? If this list succeeded and you're the life of the party somewhere, this final bit of info might come in handy. The Brits may be known for their stiff upper lip, but when it comes to drinking, they take the title of binge drinking champions of Europe. And after a night of heavy indulgence, they've got their hangover cure down to a science. According to a study from Newcastle University, the secret lies in a good old-fashioned bacon sandwich. The combination of crispy bacon packed with amino acids, bread providing much-needed carbohydrates, and salt to replenish lost electrolytes makes it the ultimate remedy. Add a bit of ketchup, and you've got the perfect morning after meal to settle your stomach and get you back on your feet. And if that doesn't do the trick, try their hair of the dog remedy, having another drink the morning after to take the edge off. It might sound counterproductive, but by slowing down the metabolism of methanol, a hangover culprit, that next drink actually provides some temporary relief. Yes, temporary. Who would have thought? We nearly saw the most iconic merger of online entities in history back in 2005. If you're a little too young to remember MySpace, then you might be confused. Just know it was big enough for Mark Zuckerberg to want to sell his Facebook brand to and make a cool $75 million. It was actually one of 2 attempts. By 2008, the popularity of MySpace waned and Facebook got bigger and bigger. So I'm guessing Zuckerberg's grapes weren't too sour.